Welcome into our This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update from a very rainy Jefferson City. We're going to be joined here. I'm kind of pumped about this by one of the most fun people to be around in Missouri politics. If this guy could have a beer with 6 million Missourians, he could be elected governor tomorrow. He's running for Secretary of State. He's the judge in Wentzville. Mike Carter Law Firm. He does more things than he can say grace over. Mike Carter, thanks for making the time and joining us.
Yeah, Mr. Scott, thanks for having me come on. I was looking forward to it, and you asked me, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll be there.
Hey, let's start. Let's just shoot right from the top. You're running for Secretary of State. Hell, everybody and their brother's running for Secretary of State. It does look like a race that I could make an argument that maybe 5 candidates could win right now. What's the argument for how Mike Carter's going to win it?
You know, I'm just worried about getting in and not having to run around and ask folks for to join the campaign, and their hand in my pocket, my hand in their pocket, that kind of thing. It's been fun just to kind of use some of my marketing ingenuity. I think there's a lot of folks out there who either don't understand it or think it's just kind of rudimentary and that kind of thing, which is fine. But I just trying to see if one of these days, if I hit just the right set of levers, if I end up kind of sneaking in there, and if I do, it'll be through some kind of marketing ingenuity or creativity, and I'm just hoping that's maybe how I end up landing there.
Why don't you go give more speeches? I think folks would love it.
Yeah, and I've done that. You know, when I ran,
if a person comes off like Donald Trump without trying, it's you.
Well, when I ran against Fitzwater in 10, I ran around and did all of that. Yeah. You know, my wife always got on me. You know, you do this, you don't really try. You know, you don't take yourself seriously. I said, well, you know, I got about 5 other jobs, all of which pay the bills and make sure that our cars run and the house lights come on. That's what my main focus in life is. Now, if I end up slipping into office, I'll bring all of that skill set to whatever it is, and I'll run the bejesus out of it in a very good way. But I did what she wanted, and I went to parades, and I gave speeches, and I talked with farmers clubs, all that kind of stuff. And I had fun. I liked being around all the folks that I met. It couldn't have been any more fun. I came up short. My bosses, after I did, sat me down and said, thank God you lost, and got right back in the saddle. But I can, and I will. It's a lot funner to do it once you're in the office, like Mr. Secretary of State. Can you show up here at the next function and give us a little?
See that.
Yeah, a lot funner to do it once you're already in the office.
You in addition to doing the law firm, the judgeship, running for statewide office, you have a television show called Justice and Journalism, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
We shoot that at the KMOV studios out in Maryland Heights, Missouri, and it runs in Kansas City on WDAF, I guess, Fox 4, and then it runs in on KMOV, Channel 4 in St. Louis, and then also ABC, KDNL 30 in St. Louis. It started off with me and another person who the Cardinal Cowboy. He had already had kind of a run of it that he was doing, and I joined with him because he knew what he was doing, and we ended up separating, and then just got lucky enough through some connections and whatnot to have a state senator come on, a local county executive, and the next thing you knew, a lieutenant governor and a governor, and all of a sudden I'm like, what the heck's going on? And I guess they just are starving at some level to get their own messages out, and to sit down with somebody for 28 minutes like I do. It's kind of unheard of in the political sphere, and they're on TV. My show runs 11 times a week. So, somebody's going to see what they're saying. And I think probably them and their family watch it the closest, but I have a hell of a lot of fun asking them stuff about what they're doing and trying to figure out how the stuff works. Cause I know who knows better than those women and men that are in the office,
Sure. So running the campaign, I guess it is a long dadgum way from Wentzville to Pineville down in southwest Missouri, or up to Rockport in the great Northwest. I think it's almost probably, I'd say, impossible to appreciate how big this state is until you try to run for office in the whole damn thing at once.
Yeah. I mean, 70,000 square miles, if I'm not mistaken, 6+ million people, luckily there's a lot of, 2024 is different than 2022, which is different than 2018, which is different than 2005. The methods and ways that you can reach voters and things. I remember when I was getting my master's in strategic communications at the journalism school at Mizzou, I had a professor, Glenn Cameron, and I said, I used to knock doors and sell siding in windows. And, I've always heard if you press the flesh, any voter you meet, those are the folks who are going to be at the poll, and you just know a better way. And he said, anytime you get a geographic footprint of a couple million people or more, you give me TV, media, mail, texting, whatever it is, and I'll beat you at the polls every time. And I'm trying to put that into practice, and we'll see if it happens. But yes, you can reach the state and touch voters with the databases and things that are out there now in ways that even 4 years ago. I mean, think about texting campaigns. Trump, I don't think, texted anybody in 2016, not a soul. And now I get 5 texts a day from Trump, literally. Him, his nephew, Laura, whoever the hell that is, his kid. I mean, it's a big.
I've seen you do some of the texting though, right? I've seen. I don't know if I think I got it, but somebody else sent me a Mike Carter text, right? You've been exploring and experimenting with that, correct?
Yeah. There's no better way to.
How does that work? Like when I quit working in campaigns was before. When I was working in campaigns, you had to push to get to type the letter O. You had to push 3 times. I mean, I'm that old about it. So texting came in after. If you were going to do a text program, what does that look? How do you start doing that? What is that? What is the steps to make that happen?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a magician, right? I'm not going to tell you all of them, but I will say that the way that I do it, compared to what you need to pay, like your buddy Barklage, is about 1/5 the price, because I can actually log in and do it. Whereas usually I think most of your campaigns and your candidates, they have no clue. It just looks like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. They had no clue. They just hope it happens. I've had candidates call me, especially during that Fitzwater cycle, and they're like, I'm just waiting to see like when my commercials come up. They told me last week they were going to start on KC95 here in St. Louis. And like the candidates are usually in the dark. They're just praying and hoping that they hired the right consultant to get the message out. But you can do it if you're, it's 2024. You can Google it, ask AI, ask Perplexity, ask ChatGPT. It'll tell you if you take a little time to figure out if you really want to learn how to do it. It doesn't take but about an hour and a half.
Wow. And you could pick, I mean, to me, the actual doing of it seems pretty simple, but finding the right list seems like that's where it'd be a complex thing to find a good list of people.
Yeah, and that's pretty easy too. There's 4 or 5 services out there that if you ask ChatGPT, which are the most reliable, who has the most voter culling, who has the most permissions, all that, you'll come across it. It's not cheap. And, you got to pay money to get access to it, especially if you want to be able to manipulate it and dial down onto let's say a specific suburb within a county, not just a city within a county. Mm-hmm. There's different platforms, and you need to be a little bit like when I was, I don't know, 10 or 12, I had a VIC-20 or a Commodore 64. Most people my age don't even know those computers existed, right? I've always been kind of computer savvy, but
you and Fred Flintstone typing on that Commodore.
Yeah, exactly. But if you happen to, be a little bit good and can do a little coding or whatever, just barely, you'll be able to handle it.
Let's talk about some of these other races, because with your show and the stuff you do, you kind of do your own polling. Can you share one with us?
Yeah.
By the way, Steve Tilley loves your polling. It's literally, it's like he's like a kid when you talk to Tilley and he's talked to you. It's like a kid in a candy store. He's so excited to get your latest polls.
Yeah. I think I can talk in a platitudinal way about some of them. All the thing, like when the 2 or 3 came out against Kehoe, Eigel, Ashcroft, whatever. Mm-hmm. Mine were tracking in the exact same way. If you want to do a poll about, let's say, lieutenant governor, you have to lead with, I'm also going to ask you about governor or president, or they'll just hang up because they don't give a care about what lieutenant governor is. So every poll that I do is going to have some governor or president in it. And Eigel I met with Eigel back at Ruth Chris Steakhouse back in September, October. He said, we're at 4% now. Come February, we'll be at 10 or 12. Come June or July, we'll be touching 20. So everything, I don't know if he's got a crystal ball, magic ball, what it is, but that's exactly what he sat me down and told me. And if you know Lemke's history with some of the upsets that he had in 22, you can't discount whatever their messaging is. It gets a hold of people by the short and curlies, and they just end up voting and pulling the levers for these guys. And all the things that he said were going to happen, they have. And I've been watching them trend up.
If people that watch this show have always heard me say, Bill Eigel is a threat in this race. He has a message that folks want to buy. It's just, can he get enough money to market it and sell it? And the answer up to now has been that message, while it's very effective, the message of, I'll give you everything, I'll charge you nothing, I'm the only honest person, I'll burn it all down. That message doesn't attract money very often. It will attract some folks that think you're winking and nodding at them, but it's traditionally been hard to fundraise with that message. And I think Bill has found that to be somewhat the case. Now he's come in with the trial attorneys and said, I'm going to be your guy. And so that's odd for a Republican to say, I'm going to be the 100% trial attorney dude. It's been a good fundraising source for him. But that message, it does struggle to attract money.
Yeah, I think if you're allowed to talk about it in the abstract, I think if they can hit a critical mass, that's all that matters. I mean, the money helps you do that, get the message out. But that guy, I don't know if you sit down with them before, and I don't know if this translates into votes necessarily, but if you sit down with them, it's like talking to, one of your responsible professionals in your family when you get together for Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, that's doing well down at the train line or whatever they talk about. He's very able to articulate what he wants to do, how he's going to do it.
Did you hear Mike do a soft brag of all the professionals in his family?
So when he gets on the stage, he's like just a completely different person. He
yes,
just hits the red meat, and he just is a firebrand, whatever you want to call it.
Hey, I've always told people, if you go to dinner with Bill, he is this very gracious, self-deprecating, just great guy. Now, on the Senate floor, if all you ever knew of Bill was the Senate floor, you would think he's an arrogant jackass. But if you actually get to know Bill Eigel 1 inch out of that chamber, it's very different. And giving a speech, he comes off as a different person than you're talking to at dinner, but much warmer. He is the worst speeches he's ever given are on that Senate floor. He's the best orator in the party. There's no question.
Yeah, and there's I know you're kind of halfway alluding to the personal property conundrum, which I don't believe, by the way. I work in a municipality that probably depends heavily on them in Wentzville, and I've been there since 2009. I've been with the city mothers and fathers long enough to know that, these tax things, they try to pass them in April, they try to pass them in August, they try to pass them in November. They love their tax, right? But the thing about personal property tax, I don't think it matters if Scott Faughn says you got to find the money somewhere else or it's hocus pocus, because most 8th and 11th graders, they just know if I buy a baseball glove at Target, it's over. I get there, it's $9.99 or $39.99 or $100 now, and it's gonna be $106 at the register. Yeah, that's how it happens. They get to advertise the lower price. I pay tax at the register, but by God, nobody's coming to ask me for some more money so I can keep playing baseball catch next year with my dad. It just makes no sense. Just because everyone says, well, we get some money from it, and where are you going to get this other money from? That doesn't win the day. I don't think the voters are like, I don't know if we even care, because it makes zero sense that you get to keep taxing me for something that I already paid tax on when I bought it, by virtue of the fact that I own it.
Look, I think it's a very logical thing to say we're going to move away from property tax in the state of Missouri. But if you're being honest with people, you're going to move to something else, whether that's income or sales. But look, is Bill Eigel the first guy that's made promises he knew weren't true? No, God, no. Jesus Christ, of course not. Is he the only guy running for governor that's made promises that he knows he's not going to be able to keep? Of course not. It's politics. That's the way it is. I think a person, and I believe Bill Eigel will do there are some responsible things you could do to cap the growth of property taxes that I think Bill Eigel could get done as governor. Now, is he going to get rid of it? No. And if you believe that, I got some wonderful oceanfront property in West Butler County you're going to love.
Yeah, I would just respectfully disagree that if you got the message out to enough folks and the pressure was put on the General Assembly or whichever, maybe there's a governor that gets in your way. If he's the governor, he won't get in the way. And with
Mike, let's say you get rid of property taxes in Wentzville. In next month, parents are going to want to send their kids to a school. And if you get rid of property taxes, there'll be no one there to open the door of the school.
Yeah, no. And it might be that there might be some backlash or something once they figured out that there was an issue. But I just think that picking a way to tax that makes absolutely no sense, it would probably shift somewhere else. I don't know.
It's rained here in Jeff City about 6 inches in the last 10 days. We have a drainage district here in Cole County. If we did not have that, the water would be in the streets, and people would be bitching about that. And then you're gonna say, "Well, we got rid of property taxes." And they're like, "Okay, great. What was a great?" Well, that means there's no drainage district. Oh, I didn't know. I mean, I think there's some common sense parts. But listen, is Bill Eigel the only one that's ever told folks promises that they knew they couldn't keep? Of course not. You know, and Bill's when you ask Bill, which I have, what are you gonna do? He'll say, "Well, they'll figure it out." Well, no, Mike, you're a businessman. If you slash your revenue by 80%, you don't figure it out. You close.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the analogy helps, but have you heard of the Wayfair decision back from July of 2018? So that allowed everybody to start taxing Amazon, Walmart, anything you bought online in all of these local states. It used to be a moratorium on it, and it didn't happen. But North Dakota or South Dakota, I think North Dakota had a tax scheme that said, yeah, we can tax all of these places where these sales happen online because they're a nexus with the consumer that's in our state, right? And so they ended up finding a way, Amazon and that, to pass it down. I guess it was pretty easy. They jacked the price up, started putting in the sales tax and that kind of thing. So I imagine that it's not irresponsible to say, if folks wanted to get rid of taxing me on my car or change the level at which they did it, if your car is worth, 78,000 plus, maybe you start paying a little bit, but it's regressive in nature at some level, right? So most of the folks who have cars who are paying on it are paying a larger percentage of their overall groceries and life living and that kind of thing than folks who maybe, if it started at a higher level, potentially, if you have luxury type personal property tax instead of everybody, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but what you said is like a competent plan that doesn't sound as good in a Facebook post as I'm going to end all property taxes.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I bet maybe, I could be wrong, there's probably no proposal ever that came out of a politician's mouth that didn't suffer compromise.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
So tell me where the race is. You think so? My gut, I've seen a couple of the campaign's internals. I've seen several interest groups have polled the race, and it's not for public consumption. They're usually more reliable numbers. I've seen Axiom put out a poll. My gut tells me Kehoe is in the 28, 29, nip it at 30% with a little more steady momentum. Ashcroft is falling at a slow, steady pace, hovering somewhere around 20. And Eigel is gaining faster than either one of them are losing or gaining, and he's up somewhere in the high teens. Am I wrong?
So I haven't merged them, but for instance, if you do kind of a blended call where you're getting, which is better results, and you're getting some mobile and some landline, and you have to have the proper permissions and stuff, so you lose a little bit of your reliability. But you get Eigel up in the high teens, like you said, and then John and Jay and Mike kind of alternating between one's up 1 or 2 or one's down 1 or 2. But then if you do kind of like text only, where you're only hitting mobile numbers for them, Kehoe jumps. And I don't know why that would be if he slants to a younger crowd. I know you hear Ashcroft should be the older crowd favorite, right?
Sure.
But I've been reading this information where they say Kehoe is doing better with the older crowd, which makes absolutely no sense to me. But based on the fact that Kehoe jumps up when you have only mobile phone respondents, I think he's doing better with the younger crowd.
I think, and for voting, younger crowd doesn't mean 25-year-olds or 20-year-olds.
No, it means like
younger means
50.
Yeah. We're talking about voting young. I'm still young for a voter.
Republican voter.
It's one of the last things I'm still young for. Yes. The average age is what, about 65, 68?
Yeah, I would say it's pushing 68 on the Republican Party. And I also read that it's like 50-50 female male, and I don't think that's right. I think it's 55-45, maybe 57-43 male dominant party on the people who go to the August primary.
All right, so tell me this lieutenant governor race. You're an attorney in St. Louis. Do you know David Wassinger?
No, but his ads are having an effect. He has climbed recently in the past, I'm going to say 17 days. He was negligible, and now he's Rader and Huff on just the mobile get pretty close to one another. When you blend mobile and land, Huff beats her out by about 3 points, and Wassinger's nipping on their heels. This is all amateur polling, by the way. Full disclosure, I'm no license to poll anything, but have had success with them.
License to poll. Massage?
Yeah. No,
Kelton, do you have a license to poll?
I haven't gotten around to it yet.
So you're illegally polling right now, then, what you're saying. You're unlicensed polling. That's like in Amsterdam. I think they do have to have a license to poll for commercially.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have to get their license. So the Secretary of State's race, your race, what is a strategy? So if I were you, I'd be a little frustrated because this Valentina Gomez comes in and just says crazy shit, but I watch it all. It's very watchable. And I'd be a little frustrated. She gets this attention from doing very little campaigning in the state, but she's this compelling figure. You have Shane. What is a strategy that you adopt to say, hey, I am one of 6. I have as good a shot as any of the other these 5. How do I win this?
Well, small tangent. It's 8 people. And it's funny. I'm sure you look at the Missouri Scout once in a while. And this morning they said that I'm trying to remember exactly. They said that Porter got out of the lieutenant governor's race. And you were the first to break that, I think, Mr. Faughn. And then the Drebs guy says, that'll be good news for Plocker. And so nobody knows the difference in Plocker's, if you don't know it. He's in the Secretary of State's race.
He's running as you.
And then the Missouri Scout released a poll about, 5 weeks ago. And it had Gomez, Plocker, whoever. And the question at the top, I shit you not, go back and check it out. It says, if the race for lieutenant governor, for treasurer was held today, who would you vote? And he's got Plocker. Like no one can, it lives in politics, maybe more than you. I know everybody reads his crap, seems like every morning. So no one knows who's in these races, right?
I think Matthew Porter dropping out when he did after the minimal work he had done affects Matthew Porter's vote and maybe his wife's. That'd be it.
Yeah, I didn't see him, but he took himself pretty serious. I don't know if you saw his, we're suspending our campaign. I don't even know.
I say good for him, though. I mean, look, Mike, to me, if you're Porter, you're new at this, you don't waste $1 million on a race you probably have a very long shot ticket on at this point. And I think it probably helps Wassinger because he's a St. Louis guy. Wassinger's a St. Louis guy, but I think it really doesn't matter. It was what he could have done with his personal wealth that he's not going to do now. I think it's a negligible difference and probably smart of him to not take an expensive ticket that was a marginal gamble.
Well, and let me switch back to what I think was your question, and that is, I think Gomez, if she had, like Barklages and all those kinds of row people, I think she might be able to make a go for it because she can hit the teens in her polling. She gets a lot of attention. Most people think she's, has some level of appeal on a scale of 1 to 10. She's a 7.1 or something. And so those things matter when you're in politics, right? And then Scholler and Wassinger, back to lieutenant governor, he went through an auditor's race, just barely got beat out by McDowell or whatever her name is. So all he has to do is remind people, I've been here before, you voted for me before. Coming back to Secretary of State, Scholler's the same guy. He won the deed, lost to Kander in 2012. If he had $600,000, I bet he could remind enough people that he was it before and maybe just take the day. Scholler could, So, and I think all the folks in the Secretary of State's race, if they had $610,000 perfectly spent, could outdo the other, I think.
Well, Plocker's got more than twice that. Why isn't he running away with it?
My sense is that he polls the lowest of everyone, and I don't know why. I've always heard that, and I like the guy, met him. I had him on the show. He seems astute, articulate, has acumen, all that kind of, all the good words you can spread on somebody. And, but I've heard many times from Tim Jones, I think, Steve Tilley, somebody else who was Speaker of the House, that it's hard for them to translate into statewide office. And no one can really tell me. I always figured it's because they've taken so many hard positions in the past. But nobody knows.
I have seen, though, a lot of reps, and it's got to be reps. Like if you drive around the state like I do, you're going to see these politician corners. And in a lot of this state where there's a state rep sign, there's a Dean Plocker sign. I've been impressed how he's been able to use his members to help get just it signs up. But still, I mean, Usually you just figure your caucus members are worthless in something like this. Dean's done pretty well, I think, getting them to do something.
Yeah. Well, how long have you seen the signs? I'm curious.
Escalating over the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
From the debate, I saw a couple, and then from that presidential debate to now.
Yeah, because that has no correlation with the polling I've seen, like zero. But I imagine they're going to dump everything from the 17th of July to the 5th of August. I don't know because they're smarter and they know how to deploy money much better than I do. But I am ready to sit back and watch the fireworks, because to crawl up from mid-single digits to what you need to have to win, I'm excited to see how it happens.
All right, let's talk. Were you surprised to see Onder get endorsed by Trump? I think Onder was surprised when it happened.
He texted me the screenshot, and then I sent it to another person we both know. And I wasn't floored, but I was surprised, because they keep talking about if Will Scharf might get it, even Ashcroft might get it. And then here's little old Onder. I didn't even know he had any type of line to Trump, but I imagine it helps.
And I thought it was impressive that not only did the endorsement endorse Onder, it attacked Schaefer, who has been running very strong, by the way. Curtis ran a great campaign.
Do you know Charles Dooley?
Yeah.
I talked to him once, and you probably know this better than I do. And he called me or something, and I said, well, who are you running against or whatever? He goes, dude, you never tell anybody. If they don't know and they got to ask you, it's not my job to let you know who I'm running against. That's number one politic rule. So I wonder if it was bad for Trump to put Schaefer in that text, in that post.
If I'm Onder, I think it's nice to have a person who's unqualifiedly, wildly popular say something bad about your opponent.
You think so?
I think so.
But what if you think that you seem to talk a lot about, you think Eigel and Ashcroft are chewing up the same electorate versus Kehoe. And so if there's a different electorate for Onder, who wears his religion on his sleeve and is as hard right as you can get, there's got to be another electorate that serves Schaefer, and who Lukenmeyer, whatever his name is, thinks is going to succeed him, or he wants him to. So if you have Trump kind of tell you not to go for that guy, that might just be a signal that those other milder people or moderate folks look at him a second and a third time, where they may not have known Onder was as far right as he is or something.
I think the lawsuits have busted Trump's popularity through just the pissed off folks. It's not, look, the Republican Party is no longer about, are you conservative or moderate? It's, are you openly angry or are you a happy person? That's really what it breaks down. Positions aren't everybody's conservative now. There's no positions that really matter. It's all just a big wash of, are you angry or are you happy? And I think Trump has broke through to some of the happy people. The lawsuits have made him more popular. They've deepened his popularity, because I think folks see the least sympathetic figure in the Western Hemisphere, and they feel a little sympathy for a guy who's being blatantly, unjustly tried and now convicted of shit they can't even explain what it is. And I think Trump has a burst of wind behind him. And I'll tell you, I was at the lake this weekend, and if you were at Teresa's Trump shop there on the Strip, you would have the lines out the door to buy Trump stuff.
Yeah, and full disclosure, just reeling back to that, I've maxed out all my contributions to Onder. He lives in my area. Yeah. He has been my senator, whatever, for a long time, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not trying to besmirch him by bringing up my theory on the Schaefer mention. I'm just saying, sometimes might have been better left alone.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think there's a lot of common sense rules and traditional rules of politics that are generally pretty predictive. And then there's Donald Trump. And I think Trump has a way of just pushing against gravity on all metrics. And kind of, it's like that Seinfeld episode where it was the bizarro world, It's kind of, there's the real world and there's Trump world, and it's just different, Let's so give me some. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Give me some predictions here. We're just gonna roll up. Who wins the congressional seat?
CD3 is it'll be Onder.
Who's gonna win the treasurer's race?
I have not pulled it at all. It doesn't pull anybody in. I'll say I saw Vivek's sign the other day, and in print, the white on the red or whatever. I don't know. It has a a war shot ink block appeal to it. It does just lays across the sign very nicely. I don't know why. And I was telling my kid in the car, I said, that Vivek is a nice looking name. And I don't know what that means. But anyway, he's got the most money and everything. If he doesn't bring it home, there's only one reason why.
I agree. The reason we're buddies is because of my if I would have broke it down, I broke it down the same way. All right, give me the pick in your race, and then I'm gonna ask you a left-handed question about it.
I would say if the stars align, it'll be me, and it'll be fun to talk about.
And all right, now let me say if it's who's gonna come in second.
I don't know. It's hard. It's just hard to comment on your own race other than just.
I know that's why it's interesting. That's why everybody's going to want to watch this particular part of it.
So pure shilling on your own, you just say, I win no matter what. I'm the guy, whatever. Of course.
Who comes in second?
If you'll let me, I'll just say again that with Gomez with the right set of advisors could probably take it. I don't know if her brothers are the right choice. Plocker's got a lot of money.
Interesting that every Republican's running commercials saying we hate Hispanics, they're awful, and she's Hispanic, and somehow it just her message kind of just comes together.
No, it's way. I've told my parents really like Tucker Carlson. I think he's got some stuff too, but I always said he's just the wrong vessel. He needs to be a black woman saying all that stuff. It just if you're a middle-aged white dude spouting all that off, it just doesn't land right to get outside of the boundaries. Well, she's got the right vessel. She could say all the things that any Republican either dare not say or dare say, and she's got no blowback, right? She might look foolish or whatever you want to call it, but she can say almost anything and have no blowback whatsoever. So
proven
that should be a consultant's dream, I would think, right?
All right, who's going to win who's win lieutenant governor's race?
It looks like Huff, but Raiders at the top of the tickets. She'll get maybe 1 or 2% bump, and they're within the margin of error right now, clearly. And I don't know if she spent any money. If you go to the FCC public inspection site, she's teed up to spend some money in Kansas City, and it looks like Springfield, but it looks like Huff has already been spending.
Huff's going to outspend them, but it's interesting. It's like yourself. I assume, part of your campaign, you're going to write yourself a check. You get to buy at the candidate rate, which is far, far cheaper than the PAC rate, where I think Huff's having to spend his money. I think Huff has the right message at the right time and most importantly, the right amount of money. I'm kind of with you on him. All right, the AG's race, totally fascinating. My favorite race to talk about. Who's going to win?
Andrew Bailey is going to win. He's polling, I just don't see how if you got Roe together and everybody to try to make Scharf make up the gap. I'd like to sit back and watch and see how somebody does it. It looks impossible.
What's the gap in your numbers, if you don't mind my asking?
I do like a forced choice polling, so you don't get to hide behind undecideds. And I would argue that right now in July, I know people pay more attention in the last 10 or 15 days, but I'd argue that there's barely any undecideds myself. But there's like a 30-point gap, 26-point gap between.
All right, let me ask you the golden question here. What if Trump endorses Scharf?
I don't think it's enough. It looks like, to me, Bailey's baked in as like some homegrown boy.
Well, I think that's because he is. It's easier to market shit that's real, right?
Yeah, there's no quicker way to kill a bad product than great marketing, is what I've always heard.
All right, give me a prediction of who's going to be governor.
Damn it. Kehoe, when I had him on the show, he told me he's raised a lot of nickels, and he said, I guess he's got metrics on it. He says there's nobody who's got this much of a lead monetarily in a Republican primary who has lost the run for governor. And he said it with conviction and like research.
Well, he's a bull of the woods, ain't he? When he's in the room with you, you're with a big when you talk to Mike Kehoe one-on-one, you're in the room with a big damn deal. Even if you don't know what he does or who he is, he's got that aura of he's a big damn deal.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't pick up on quite that big a damn deal, like, medium-sized deal for sure. But I liked him, and he seems to be a pretty straight shooter. Ashcroft is, and I even told him on my show, he's kind of a boring dude. I don't think he's got any skeletons in the deepest of all caverns anywhere at all.
What do you make of this engineer thing? To me, it's like it's a little shady, right? It's not like I don't think he's a blatant. It's not like he's out designing a bridge, and then he's not an engineer, right? It's that he's kind of embellishing his resume a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I know something I looked up the other day, which I think I was wrong about, is I had always understood that if you had a law degree, like the old mayor of St. Louis, I can't remember his name, Freeman Bosley, but he wasn't licensed, that you're called a lawyer if you don't have a license. You're called an attorney if you've got a bar membership, right? And so
Well,
I
I
kind of
think
looked
what
at it.
Jay's legally called is it's kind of demeaning, but the title is after you get a degree, which I think he's got a degree in like engineering management. Before you
Right.
become an engineer, you're an engineer intern. And
Okay.
so
Let me butt in. My friend from Boeing said that most people that engineer in defense departments don't ever become licensed and still call themselves engineers. He
Yeah.
said that Ashcroft's an engineer.
And in that
Well-
interview, Ashcroft says, "I am an engineer," which don't make it true. But and there's another thing in the Mo Scout today that carved out. There's even something in the statutory scheme that says you're allowed to say it as long as you're not trying to get a job doing it.
see, I think that I think he's, but if we were at the Goat Bar in Wentzville before we got our DWI, I think what we would do, what we'd set back on is, yeah, it's a little shady, but it's not like terribly shady.
I can tell you, I like Mr. Ashcroft, and I've been around him, and I was
He's a good
preparing to
guy.
say some very nice things about him. But I will say, and I would say if he was sitting here with me, that video where the nefarious inquirer asks him about it, Mr. Ashcroft looks very uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, he kind of has that uncomfortable look. You know, that ain't totally foreign. All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Who's gonna win the race?
Shoot, I don't know. I guess. I don't know. I don't really. I mean, I've been watching it so long as it's trended up and down. Any three of them could make it. I don't know what Ashcroft's got in the hopper against what's his button stuff. I guess Keogh is probably going to itch it out, and everything you've said about Eigel and Ashcroft tearing up that same voter contingent is probably going to be each of their downfalls.
Well, I think part of it is that Eigel nor Ashcroft wants to knock the other one out. They don't want to spend any of their resources knocking the other one out. They want to go after Kehoe and want the other one to knock Kehoe out. This race right now reminds me of that Spider-Man thing where all the Spider-Men are dressed as Spider-Man pointing at each other, and it's like, no, you attack Kehoe, no, you attack Kehoe. And I've watched this many times. The three-way races, they all think the other one's going to do it, and they'll spend their money promoting them and zoom around them, and ends up nobody attacks the guy, and the guy ends up in Kehoe's spot ends up winning.
Yeah, I would say it differently than them pointing at each other, just argumentatively, because I'm like that. Is one, Keogh can spend his way to the top and just get his ID through the roof and get some good messaging, feel good stuff about him. Ashcroft can push his dad and the common sense nature that he had running in all those offices, I believe, governor, auditor, state senator, attorney general. That's a message you can send. And he even did a neat interview once where he was saying, you know, basically, I've learned a lot from my dad, and he owned it, right? I don't like the one where his dad's on the back of the thing and they're picking on my son, because you don't really need your dad to come and protect you, I don't think. But he could sell that. And then Eigel, if he gets the personal property people and the far righters, I think they each have a path to do it. I just don't know the actual calculus on the number of people in each of those lanes, but money should win it, all things being equal.
Well, I want to thank you for the time. I want to thank the Courtyard by Marriott. When you come in for your swearing in, there's only one place you're going to want to stay. Text me. I'll text Randolph. You're going to want to stay in the Courtyard by Marriott. And when you're out doing the campaign and you're up in the Great Northwest, the United Electric Co-op, the best rural broadband in the state, I want to thank you for the time. Stick around, Mike. If you happen to watch, I'm gonna unveil the ugliest logo in the history of politics. It is ghastly. It is actually in your race. And I'm going to give Hulk Hogan's beer one more try. I've got it down here.
I mean, even if that is, I saw you taste it the other day. Even if it's ice cold, you can't stomach it.
Well, it's ice cold. Kelton, this has been in a cooler. It was a little warm. I'm going to pour it in the stein of knowledge. Mike Carter, thank you for the time. I sure appreciate it.
Hey, you too. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so here we are. Hulk Hogan's beer. It's this real American beer. Says brewed in the USA. Let's get for our podcast listeners, you can hear it. There we go. Bend that thing back. Let's stick it here in the Oh, you hear that pour? Oh, that sounds good. Yep. All right. So it's ice cold. It's in the hopper. I have to thank John Combest because the only reason I actually knew about this beer was John Combest's website. It was unmistakably put at the top of the article list. I think sometime over the 4th of July weekend because I looked on the website. It said it was 2 places at the lake this weekend. I only found it at the Eagle Stop. The one right as you're coming in on 54, like if you're darting over to go down to the strip, dart off to that one on the right, and there it was right in the front. Hulk Hogan beer. I love the Hulkster. I love the Hulkster. Childhood hero. My son was Hulk Hogan for Halloween once. It was awesome. Here we go. Kelton, we'll give this a try. Oh, shit. I'm going to do it again here. Oh, Hulkster. That's bad. That's bad. Kelton, I'm going to, Missouri, listen to me. Listen to me, Missouri. The only places that can brew beer are Germany and St. Louis. That's it. Full stop. You know me. I'm not an IPA guy. I'm not a craft beer guy. Germany and St. Louis. Hulkster, I love you, but this is so bad. I mean, this is so bad that, I mean, Mabel, I think, should have been the third man. I want to retroactively root for Andre. Let me just give it one more. Oh, it's just awful. It's just ghastly. Oh, sheesh. You want to try this, Kelton?
I'll pass.
Good call. I'm sorry, Hulkster. I love you. I love you less after tasting this. This is just bad beer, folks. Look, drink Anheuser-Busch products. I mean, seriously. I tell my son if I wanted him to suck, I'd named him Coors Light. Drink Anheuser. This Hulkster. I'm gonna put this down here. I don't want this on my desk anymore. Then, oh man, God. I mean, Kelton, I mean, it's hard to even breathe after drinking that. It's almost like gasoline and piss. But Jesus, awful. So I told you I was going to show you the logo of the worst campaign logo ever of all time. And I'm going to unveil it now. It is a Dean Plocker. This is a Dean Plocker t-shirt, right? This is the worst campaign logo ever. I will tell you, if you're Missouri, hear me out. If you have your kids watching, have them turn away. If you're sick to your stomach, turn away from this. If you're in a moving vehicle, pull over to the side of the road before you look at this. Oh, drum roll, please. Oh, look at that. Oh, Kelton, can you bring us in here on this? I mean, this is the ugliest thing I've ever saw. I'm going to tell you who's responsible for this. Rod Jetton, this is the worst thing you've ever done. It is a state of Missouri. It says, make Missouri great again, which actually David Wassinger has copywritten. It says conservative warrior, but it's the smiley face like Forrest Gump with the MAGA hat on the state. It is so bad. I'm going to tell you, though. So Rod, who developed this, he would wear this to the lake this weekend. I saw him on the 4th. He was walking around to people, right, with this shirt on, just awful. But Rod had such an effervescent personality. Kelton, I swear to God, Rod was able to make people think this was good. That's what kind of salesman that dude is. He was able to take the ugliest logo in the history of politics. Like if I was Mike Carter, what I would do is I would license this logo from Plocker and text it out to everyone in his program. That way they could see this logo, and Dean would be done. You really, honestly, you don't need Dana Rodeman to take your campaign out. This logo is far more lethal to the campaign than anything all the staffers in the world could say. It's awful. I apologize to you for showing it to you. It was just so bad. I could not have you see it. Kelton, on a scale of 1 to the shittiest, where would you rank this logo?
It's got to be down with the shittiest.
I mean, it is just, it's not, in one way, it's like it almost goes around the world so bad it turns into comedy good. But no, Doug, I want you to give me a high five if you like this logo. See, I knew Doug wouldn't like it. He's got good taste. Listen, Missouri, if you see this logo, do not compliment Rod because he doesn't know you're patronizing him. if you see him wearing this shirt, you're not being nice by telling him this doesn't suck. You're only making it worse. Be honest with him. Tell him this logo is awful. It is I have a sticker. It's so bad. The logo is so bad. It's going to live in infamy here in the studio. I gotta add the Alford sign sometime this week. I'm gonna put this on, and okay. I will say this: not on a T-shirt, on a sticker. It's almost so bad that it's funny. But I'm gonna find a spot in here. I would put it on Flat Doug, but I don't think Doug would appreciate wearing this little lapel pin. That handsome double. So anyhow, I will have this somewhere in here, and if you see this shirt on Rod, don't try to be a goody goody. Just tell him the truth. When he asks you, do you like the logo? I know what you're going to want to say. Oh, sure, that's fine. Don't do that. Just be honest and tell him how bad the logo is. It is the worst logo I have ever seen in my life. I'll put a picture on social media for you to see for yourself. But it's you're not doing him any favors by lying to him. Lastly, before we get out of here, Kelton, I think we may do a midweek update tomorrow. I'll send you some details. I might have Huff on. I was going to do the Kehoe bus, but it looks like they have to get to St. Louis for their debate. So I don't want to hold them up for getting to St. Louis. How about that? Do you see that? They're going to do one debate, I guess, and they're going to do it in St. Louis. It almost shows you where the priorities of the Republican Party are.
They didn't even look at your list of good debate spots.
Took none of them. Honestly, in the state, it is very fitting with the Missouri Republican Party, though. They have 100% of the debates in St. Louis, and stop traffic. When they come to Jeff City, they care about 100% of the time St. Louis. It probably does make sense that they should do it there, because I've never met a Republican that wasn't obsessed with St. Louis. Didn't give a damn about his own constituents, but obsessed with St. Louis. And I guess the three people running for governor, well, you really can't. No, I'll take that back. Iowa and Ashcroft, they would agree to do a debate in real Missouri where you won't get shot or have to wear a mask. But there's only one debate, and it's in murder and mass territory. I guess of all places, Chesterfield. God, what an awful place. I mean, Chesterfield's like the bus station from Total Recall. Jeez. Ugh, what a terror. Ugh. What an awful place to have to live. I mean, can you imagine what you've done in a past life to have to live in Chesterfield? Good Lord. Ugh. Ugh. Anyhow, we do have an announcement to make, Kelton. I think we can make it, don't you?
I'm pretty confident we can.
Okay, so here is our election night plans. What we're going to do is we're going to stay here in Jeff City, here in the offices, right? Kelton and I are going to go to the bar, 4 or 5, have a nice happy hour.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Then we're going to come in at 7, set up staff. If anybody wants to be an intern on election night, we'll pay you to come in and help us. We're going to need some help. We're going to have pizza to eat, we'll have beer drink. So what we're going to do here, Kelton, is I think we're going to go out and we're going to start at 7 with about a half-hour show, right? Where we're going to bring in, I'd love to bring in Mike Carter, talk about his polls. I'd love to bring in maybe get Cardetti, Barclay, some folks that do these campaigns, Steve Baker's free, Brett Dinkins. Go in and do those, right, for about a half hour, 45 minutes, because, there's not going to be a lot to call. And then come back about 9 o'clock, maybe 8:30, you think, Kelton?
I think 8:30 would be just fine.
We'll come back at 8:30, and we'll plan to be here. Let's say we're going to plan to be there till 10, and then we could even do a wrap-up show if something's not called by then. I think this governor's race will be called by 10 for sure. I bet you the statewide, there's the trends that you see throughout. It's not like we have a geographic strengths as that much anymore. Some of the state rep races won't be called probably because if they're in St. Louis, it just takes forever. And if you're in, real Missouri, they'll do things efficiently and well. I could see a state, but I tell you what we'll do, Kelton. Let's do this. We're going to come on live at 7:30. At 7, right when the polls close, you come here. We're going to go to about 7:30. We'll take a break. We're going to eat pizza, go over Madison or something, get some takeout. Have a beer. Then we'll go back. We'll come back. I tell you, that's what we'll do, Kel. I got it. All right, here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to do in here at 7 in our streaming studio. Then we're going to go to the main studio at 8:30. We'll be back, and we're going to stay until we've called the last state Senate race. There's the state Senate primaries. There's the one in Kansas City for Razor's seat. You have the Gregory Ritchie matchup in kind of the fringe of the Great Northwest. You have the Southern Missouri seat with Travis Smith and Brad Hudson. You have the Cape seat with Berger, Dinkins, and Turner. You have the Lead Belt with Henderson and Courtway. And then you have the St. Charles, Eastern St. Charles County with Chris Finelli, Krismer, and at Schnelting. So we'll do those, and we'll stay till we've called those, and we'll try to bring you the winners, right? That work?
That sounds like a great idea.
Cool. We'll start at 8:30. And we're going to stick around this until we've called the last state Senate race. And we'll be calling House races on our social media, and we'll call them live as they come through. But in reality, we're going to make sure we've got the right winners and losers all done up. We'll try to bring you the interviews in real time. It's going to be kind of interesting because we'll have to be texting and talking, but we'll bring in some guests and some folks like that I think we could take over and have them kind of do a back and forth. You know, it'd be good to have on. We should see if Hannah Beers can come on.
Ooh, that is a good idea.
She's here in town. I don't know where she's been election night, but they live here. I wonder if we could at least get her to call in because she knows all these races doing that HRCC stuff. She'd be good. Somebody, Cardetti's so good. Sharon Jones, man, she's been a strong person on this show. Well, that's our loose plan. I thank you for your feedback. We're going to get in on it. So essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to do happy hour, right? About 5:00, right, Kelton?
I love happy hour.
We're going to come back at 7 after happy hour and do a streaming show for about a half hour or so, whatever. Then we're going to go off the air for an hour. We're going to go eat, right? Because that's the Missouri Times. We obviously like to eat around here. It's important. Then we're going to come back at 8:30, and we're going to stay until the last competitive state Senate race is called. How about that?
I like that. It's a great idea.
We'll bring you some winners. We'll bring you some other folks in politics. It'll be fun. Maybe it's a fun election night tradition. But I thought, instead of going on site to one of the speeches and all that, and we'll probably send somebody to whoever we think is going to win the governor's race. But it'll be a great way to wrap up a fun campaign season. 28 days from now, Kelton. Can you imagine?
It's coming before you know it.
F-150 tour. Head to a town near you. We are coming to St. Charles County today, this evening. So buckle up, baby. We're going to St. Charles. They love me in St. Charles, Kelton.
Do they now?
They don't. But you know who I love in St. Charles?
Who?
Steve Ellman. Steve Ellman is one of the reasons you can still be proud to be a Republican. One of the best human beings in politics. The state is in the debt of Steve Ellman for what he's done for it. I actually love Defiance. North St. Charles, where Eagle had his kickoff, that is a beautiful area. If only the rest of it could be like that.
We can only hope.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. Tune in here. Maybe we send somebody to the St. Louis debate for the St. Louisans on Thursday. We'll see what happens. And maybe they'll want to do one for the rest of the state, or it'll just continue to be the Missouri Republican Party. But you do one thing right, St. Louis. And today we all like to dog St. Louis. It is, crime ridden and quite dangerous. And the masks are very annoying and the people are uppity. But there is one thing they do well. They brew beer well, brother. I will see you probably tomorrow, if not sometime Thursday, for This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update, brother.